the CEO of Most Valuable Promotions, the co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions as well. His guy was there front and center on Friday night on Netflix, on the biggest platform in the world, 300 plus million subscribers. And unfortunately, it didn't go his way, but some, including myself, think that it was a moral victory of sorts for Jake Paul. Let us ask the one and only Nakisa Bidarian about that and more. He is kind enough to join us just a few days before Christmas. Thank you so much, Nakisa. Appreciate the time. Congratulations to you and the whole team on the event. And so could I ask right off the bat, was that a moral victory for your guy, Jake Paul, on Friday?
Ariel, thanks for having me, and thanks for being involved in the event through Netflix. I think you did a great job as usual. I don't think it was a moral victory because he expected to win. I do think he showed who he is as a fighter. I think he deployed the strategy that he was very clear about going into, that he was going to look to make AJ miss, and AJ missed a number of times. And ultimately, I think the weight of AJ caught up to Jake Paul. If you look at the first 3 rounds, AJ wasn't really able to touch him. But when AJ was in a clinch with him a couple of times, pushed down on the back of his neck, pushed down on the back of his head, got him to the ground. There was a few times where Jake looked like he was going for a takedown. Again, that was Jake trying to engage in the clinch, and AJ smartly moved back. In one instance, I think it was the 5th round, Jake engaged for a clinch, AJ moved back and started punching down on Jake's back. So all of those things kind of deteriorated or emptied Jake's gas tank a lot earlier than I think he expected it to. But overall, I thought he deployed his game plan well for the first 5 rounds and actually had some success. He even moved AJ back a few times, 1 by just jabbing in the air, and 2, when he caught him, he moved AJ back. AJ came right back in and swung, but he did move him back.
When this fight was first announced, you said to several media members that, like, initially you weren't down for this fight. You thought it was just a little bit too much too soon, to paraphrase. Did he do better? Did Jake do better than you thought? Result aside, obviously you wanted him to win. You thought, I think, by the end that he was going to win, but did he actually do better than you thought initially?
Back in March, yes. By the time we got to fight week, I was always very clear, high risk, high reward. Either man could win. You know, I was getting ridiculed online for saying you don't believe in your guy. At the same time, people were saying this is fixed and Jake Paul was going to win. I just faced the reality of what Jake was trying to take on at such an early stage of his boxing career. And it was a monumental task. And ultimately, you know, I had said to my wife and my brother during the week that I think round 5 or 6 of where Jake could be in trouble. If he made it past round 6, I actually thought it would have gone the distance, but kind of given how I saw the fight going, it kind of played out in that scenario. But I did believe Jake could win, absolutely. And I think the funny part is online, people are saying, oh, Jake was totally outclassed. Sean Wheelock, the scorer for the night on the Netflix broadcast, gave round 4 to Jake Paul. I thought you could have made an argument that Jake Paul won the first round and the 4th round against Anthony Joshua.
So that would have meant, 3-2 for Joshua heading into the 6th round, which again, a lot of people thought that he would dispose of him rather quickly. Can you give us an update on how he's doing? We know that he broke his jaw in multiple places, 2 places to be exact, and I believe he has revealed that he's had surgery since. How is he doing? How is he feeling?
He's doing great. Obviously, you know, there's periods of time during the day where there's a lot of pain, periods of time where there is no pain actually. Recovery process is 5 to 6 weeks, and he's focused on coming back as a boxer in 2026. This is a sport that he loves. This is a sport that saved him from the path that he was on in the past. And I think in a funny way, I'm kind of glad he didn't win. And I know that may sound harsh, but imagine if Jake Paul, 5 years into the sport in reality, probably 3 years into the sport in terms of 3.5 years in terms of fighting top level competition who are fighters, beat Anthony Joshua. What would be the motivation to continue to get better, to double down on your training, to grind even harder? had he had beaten Anthony Joshua. So Jake always says the best lessons or the best wins are from your losses. And I believe that happened with Tommy Fury. And I 100% believe that happened here. Because if Jake is truly passionate about this sport, he now realizes that he has to even commit more time, more resources, more days into elevating his craft.
So the injury obviously is different than your typical injury, because obviously it's right there. That's where you're getting punched, and as we were talking about with Eddie earlier, like that could sometimes change the trajectory of one's career. And there are some people who don't come back. Some do. Some have had great careers after breaking their jaw. Is there any part of you after seeing that says to yourself, hey man, you've made millions of dollars. It's been incredible. We built this thing. It's lasting far longer than your career, right? MVP can be a thing with or without Jake. You saw the event in July. We don't need to do this anymore. You proved your point. I don't want to see you get hurt.
I think that's ultimately his call. I don't view a broken jaw as career ending or defining. I think there's plenty of examples, from my past in MMA. Dos Anjos broke his jaw, had plates put in, came back and became champion after that. And I think Jake very much showed the kind of chin he has, very much showed the kind of movement that he has in the ring, and very much showed the heart that he has. And so I'm looking forward to what defines him going forward, not what we've done in the past 5 years. Has it been disruptive? Yes. Have we done massive things for the sport inside and outside the ring together? I believe we have. But I think there's a long, long path ahead for Jake Paul within the boxing world, inside and outside the ring.
In the immediate aftermath, he told me, I want to keep fighting. Is that still the sentiment a couple of days later?
Yeah, I think he made a post yesterday saying, I love this, I'm recovering, and who do you want to see me fight next, right? And I think now it's more important than ever for him to tell his story of who he is as a boxer, because he did take on a massive challenge and he fell short. And I think that is an important transition point to say, okay, here's how I go on from here.
And as far as the, I know you said that he didn't have any sort of moral victory. It doesn't work that way. He wanted to win the fight. But would you at least acknowledge, and maybe you feel otherwise, so tell me, that his stock has gone up? Do you feel, in other words, that he has earned the respect of way more people than perhaps, after some of his other recent fights?
I think definitely he's earned a lot more respect. There's, of course, the naysayers out there still who are spreading either lies or just being defamatory for no reason. But, social media is a perfect stat. And he's gained over 600,000 followers on Instagram for a guy who was a social media influencer to begin with and fairly saturated after a loss. He is the most followed American athlete on TikTok. He's added over 320,000 followers on TikTok. So people are following him, even though he fell and lost in his biggest fight of his career. And that speaks to his brand, his profile, his quote unquote stock going up. And I think you have to now respect him as someone who's willing to take on the biggest challenges in the boxing ring. To date, you could argue, people have said outside of Tommy Fury, the fights have not been even, or someone's been smaller or older or not as experienced. There's no such excuse or narrative here. And again, I want to be clear. Jake Paul did better than almost every single person out there who wasn't a Jake Paul believer said he was going to do. He did better than Eddie Hearn said he was going to do. He did better than Anthony Joshua said he was going to do. He did better than 99% of the media, 99% of the boxing community said he was going to do. So I'm proud of him for what he delivered, but we're not satisfied. It's not like, hey, yeah, we lasted 6 rounds with Anthony Joshua, we should be cheering. No, he got knocked down. I will say, and this isn't talked about enough, even after taking that massive blow, he got up back on his feet. And if the ref said go, he would have gone, right? This guy didn't quit. After round 5, many people would have said, I am making massive amounts of money here. I've been knocked down. It's been great. I'm going to call it. Round 6, before the ending, he was knocked down. Again, he could have said, okay, I'm going to take the knee here. Count me out at 10. I'm out. Didn't do it. And after he took such a massive blow where he said, whoa, he still got back up to his feet. And it was only then that the ref called it Not because Jake said I'm done, but the ref called the fight.
What is your response, Nakisa, to people who say there was too much running, there was too much clinching, it wasn't an entertaining fight?
I would say Jake told you how he was going to deploy his strategy. I would say Anthony Joshua, I looked at the stat in round 4 against Daniel Dubois, right? Year and a half ago. He got knocked out, I think, in round 5, threw less punches than he threw in round 4 against Jake Paul. Like, think about that, right? He was more active against Jake Paul than he was against Daniel Dubois in the 4th round of what was, one was a 5-round fight, one was a 6-round fight. I will say that Jake Paul lasted longer than 18 of Anthony Joshua's opponents, some of which were heavyweights that were 24-0, 25-0, 26-0. There was no world Jake Paul was going to come to Anthony Joshua, stand right in front of him, and say, let's throw down blow for blow. Even though I walk around at 207 to 209 on a regular day, and you walk around at 250 to 260, let's just go ahead and meet in the middle. He deployed his strategy, and he did a lot more effectively than people thought. There was a lot of comments around, oh, a 22 by 22 ring. That's unheard of. Very common in boxing. Canelo's deployed that ring many times, and Canelo's a much smaller man. So all the talk is expected. I mean, that's part of the brand. It's part of disruption, and it's part of what gets people talking. So it's ultimately fine. I know what we did. I know what Jake did. And even Anthony Joshua was very clear that he respected the performance by Jake Paul.
Speaking of that talk, it always seems like after Jake's fights, there's I've seen the script, rigged, this, that, and the other. Do you think now, at the very least, that talk goes away? Broke his jaw, went in there against Anthony Joshua. At the very least, do you think that you guys can move on from that? Like, that won't follow you?
No, I don't. I actually, our lawyers are actively going after a number of people. One who claims to be a lawyer himself online. I don't remember the name or the handle, but it was something that had like 200,000 likes. And basically this post said there was an agreement for AJ not to knock out Jake, but AJ disregarded the agreement and decided to not get his payday, but knock out Jake Paul. So it's pretty astonishing what people say. Your dear friend Lou DiBella, saw him put up a bunch of ridiculous things and even said, Nakisa, go ahead and sue me. But this wasn't a real fight. He was pulling punches. He wasn't giving it his full effort.
And so for the people, again, just to clear this up, because I asked Eddie this question, I'll ask you the exact same question. Once and for all, was there any sort of arrangement as far as it should go this many rounds? Because that's the one that I've heard. Oh, Anthony agreed to 3 rounds, 4 rounds. Can you tell us in black and white if there were any talks of any kind between the network, the promotion, the fighter?
There has never once in Jake Paul's career been any talk of that sort, of anything to do with the fight being anything but a real fight that has exactly the same situation as any professional fight. And that's exactly the same thing here for the Anthony Joshua fight. It's just beyond mind-blowing that people would think that. Anthony Joshua was on record saying that if he didn't finish him in the first round, that would be disappointing, that it would be a failure. The narrative changed as we got closer to fight night and obviously post-fight, and I understand why, but they were pretty adamant it would take max 2 rounds to knock out Jake Paul.
What, if anything, can you tell us about how Netflix felt about Friday night?
I think we were all happy with the numbers, with the performance. You have to remember, Jake Paul put on the performance that he did with 5 weeks, 4.5 weeks preparation for one of the best fighters in the world. And most time when fights fall apart, as you know, the replacement opponent isn't as exciting, isn't as dangerous, isn't as viable of actually beating the guy who didn't, or a girl who didn't fall off the card. So you couldn't be anything other than amazed at what we were able to pull off and what Jake was willing to do to keep the entire card together. Alicia Baumgartner, Jamal Harvey, Anderson and Tyron Woodley, Neeks and Amanda Galley, Caroline Dubois, Keno Marley, Avius Griffin. All of them got that opportunity that night because this young man said, yes, I'm going to take on this challenge. I believe I can do it. And lo and behold, his strategy worked for 5.5 rounds, and he landed some pretty good shots and won a couple of rounds from my perspective. So I think Netflix was very happy. MVP, we're very happy with the outcome, and I think they'll have numbers either today or tomorrow in terms of viewership, but it was a very successful night.
In the aftermath of Saturday, there have been some people being like, hey, what a great weekend. Jake Paul gets knocked out. Andrew Tate looked not so good in his fight. Seeing him put your guy being put in the same category as Andrew Tate, who I personally don't think is a very good person, does that bother you?
I don't think, look, it's internet chatter. Obviously, Jake has shown who he is inside the ring. He's shown who he is outside the ring, whether it's within the boxing community, whether it's as an entrepreneur, whether it's with his Boxing Bullies charity. So it doesn't bother me. It just shows the world that we live in.
What about, early on, I feel like MVP and Misfits were kind of compared to each other. You guys were on Friday night, they were on Saturday, you were on Netflix, they were on Rumble. You had, 5 title fights, they had different type of title fights. To see the two events juxtaposed against each other, do you feel like this was a great weekend for the MVP brand?
I never think about Misfits as being in the same business that we are, right? I think they've created a WWE-like product that is boxing, but isn't really elite level boxing. I know they've started a new pro division that is going to be different to the product they currently put out. I have nothing but, appreciation for anyone who gets into the boxing ring at any level. I do not think that we're in the same league of promotion or in the same sport effectively, given the product that they put out.
What about your place in American boxing? Top Rank still doesn't have a TV deal. Golden Boy's deal with DAZN is coming to an end, and as of right now, to the best of my knowledge, they don't have any events scheduled for 2026. Is there a case to be made with your Netflix shows and your DAZN deal that you are the number one American promoter right now?
I don't look at it that way. I look at it as we are the number one brand, A, for women's boxing, unequivocally, and B, in terms of doing the biggest, most impactful mainstream events that increase the awareness of the sport, and bring new eyeballs to it, and create opportunities for other athletes. That is where we are right now. We're not looking at Golden Boy and Top Rank and PBC. We're thinking about how does our brand affect an entire sport.
As far as the women's division that you guys have created, it's obviously robust. You just added Caroline Dubois. Are we going to see in 2026 more, women's only cards like the one that we saw in July? What could you tell us about the brand that you are building with the women?
Yeah, look, the objective is to have a singular brand that represents the best in class fighters unequivocally within the sport. Very hard to do on the men's side, given the number of promoters that exist, the network dynamics, and the egos that are roaming around within it. On the women's side, people don't have the belief, maybe, or the vision, or the trust that there is value in women's boxing. And I think the WNBA is a perfect example. It took 30 years for the investment to pay off, but boy, has it paid off. In MMA, it took a long time for Lorenzo to convince Dana White to have women's MMA, but Ronda immediately paid off. And I think women's boxing will pay off. If you look at January 3rd, what we're doing there is a main card that is all women and a preliminary card that is a mix of men and women. And I think that shows the power of the women's brand to be able to carry a card that is positioned, yes, as a women's event, but also has men fighting underneath them. And that's part of the vision of how we see it going forward. And I absolutely see more of those happening in 2026.
Speaking of the future, and I'll let you go in a moment, I do want to know, as far as Jake is concerned, obviously he moves back down to cruiserweight. He's alluded to that. But would you like to see him maybe just take a bit of a step back in terms of opponent now? Like, does he go back to the Furies or maybe even finally the KSIs of the world? Or do you think now that he's gone in there with AJ, he's swimming with those types of sharks? What would you like to see when he heals up?
I think, look, one, KSI is not anything to do with boxing. That's just like a nice to have if and when KSI ever, comes back into boxing and wants to do it. I think that's something that would be great for the fans. But I do think at this stage, Jake's skill set is way too advanced for KSI, and he'd be smart not to do it. In terms of who he fights next, we haven't had that conversation. I have certain ideas. Tommy Fury is not it. I don't think he's reliable to do that. But it's really up to Jake. I need to hear from him how he sees it going, and he does want to win a belt. And so I think there's ways of doing that in the right way to allow him to get back to that top of the mountain in terms of getting a belt, and also continue to do big spectacular events.
Realistically, do you think we see him again in 2026?
Very much so, yes.
Okay. And one more before I let you go. The Zuffa boxing debut is exactly 32 days away from now. We don't have a card announced just yet. It sounds like the debut is going to take place at the Apex the night before UFC 324. Eddie was saying earlier, like, you know, what's going on? Where are the announcements? Why aren't you coming out with a bang? That type of thing. What do you make of the state of Zuffa boxing as of right this moment?
Biggest thing I make of is Saturday, January 3rd, Amanda Serrano is back on DAZN.
Yes, sir.
Long for Zuffa boxing. And Stephanie Han and Holly Holm are fighting. And both of those fights are 3-minute rounds. That's what I'm most excited and focused on. In terms of Zuffa boxing, to make your debut in what appears to be the Apex, it's a similar playbook to what they've done for their slap fighting league. Is they have a UFC event on the Saturday. They're going to fly in a bunch of VIPs, give them a free hotel, give them a free dinner, and have them show up at the Apex Center and make it feel like it's a big event. I hope it's a successful debut for them. I know they haven't announced the card as yet, but they're extremely intelligent, extremely well capitalized, and they're not going to go away easily, right? So you have to take them seriously, and it'll be interesting to see what it is. But I know the playbook. I see exactly what they're doing, and hopefully it's successful for them.
One more quick one. Eddie, very complimentary of you, of MVP, of the whole week, the relationship. I know there were ups and downs, but as far as working with him in the future, is this something you want to continue to do? And did you feel the same way as far as how everything went since the fight was announced?
Yeah, look, we operate how we operate, right? It wasn't this week. We've operated the same in every single event that we've worked with Matchroom. It's more about when we agree and negotiate on certain terms, those are the terms that we deliver on. And here, this was the first event that we've done together where AJ was truly bringing a lot to the table, and they negotiated in that fashion, and we delivered in that same fashion. I've said the entire time, you have to respect Eddie Hearn for delivering this fight on short notice. And I hope to continue working with them. Absolutely. We're going to see each other in January. There's lots of business to be done. And this is a moment to be strategic within boxing. The landscape is shifting. There's promoters who don't have TV distribution. There's promoters who are entering and want to disrupt. We've been disruptive. Eddie has a promotional capability like very few have within MMA or boxing. I believe he's the best spokesperson for his boxers of any spokesperson out there, or fighters, right? Dana White isn't a promoter anymore. He's not promoting athletes in my mind. So I have a lot of admiration for what Eddie does as a promoter. And I think they have admiration for what we do as a brand, as a company, as a executor of big events. I mean, if I look at our weigh-in from last Thursday, I was thrilled with the outcome, the vision that came to life and how we produced it. And I think people see that and appreciate that.
Last one, sorry, I lied. Is it true they both made $92 million?
They both made a lot of money.
Where did this number come from, this random $92 million? I can't figure it out.
I think Eddie said it wasn't Joshua's biggest payday,
yeah,
but it was a very good payday. I can't speak to whether it was Joshua's biggest payday or not, nor can I speak to that for Jay because that's confidential information for him. But they both made a lot of money, as they should have. They put on a massive event that had the world talking, positively, negatively, indifferent. If you are able to grab attention and have people take their time away from their phone or their family or their sleep to watch, you deserve to be rewarded.
Congratulations. Thank you, Nakisa. Happy holidays to you and your family. Great event, great way to end the year. Looking forward to what you guys do in 2026.
Thank you, Ariel. Have a great one.
There he is, Nakisa Bidarian, the CEO of Most Valuable Promotions, co-founder as well of MVP, and that was their third event on Netflix in a little over a year, 13 or so months to be exact. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.